Yo, boys, welcome back. I'm stuttering a little bit as I talk, like I'm at my 7th grade sock hop school dance. That's because it's election season. I'm going to mix metaphors here, but it's like the whole family comes home once it's election season. And I'm just so excited. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you should be, because iSavage is here. He's wearing a Bone Thugs-n-Harmony.
I knew you were going to say something.
How awesome. I don't have any friends wearing Bone Thugs t-shirts at 10 p.m. on a Thursday.
You gotta get some friends with better choice in music. That's what can I say?
Are you
proud of it?
What are you? First of the month, Crossroads? Like, what's your go-to Saturday morning Bone Thugs song?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I do think that First of the Month is one of the not just best rap songs ever written. It's one of the best songs ever written.
Okay, all right. CC John Lennon. So we've got iSavage. iSavage, I think we need to pump you up a little bit here, because you haven't been around for like a year, and there are a lot of DJs who don't know you. And, you know, I think Pratik and I are now kind of middle-aged in like DJing years, and you're like old guard shit. Like, you're like one of, like, when we came into the game, you were one of the OGs who was just printing money. So do you want to introduce yourself to the new DJs?
Gladly. I go by iSavage, friend of the show from South Side of Chicago. I usually come from the liberal perspective on gambling, which usually makes me pretty successful. But I've been on gambling with Predicted for going on 6 years now, just like anybody else who started in 2016, lost a bunch of money on the 2016 election, and have been crushing it ever since.
That's right. You too can lose tons of money and then maybe stop losing tons of money too. I mean, no one gives a shit, but I do. Like, you came into our world because you were a big deal, and it was just Zoltar and me. And I'm like, I think my mom read my blog, and that was it. And Zoltar just decided to like pick on you and talk shit until one of you, I don't remember what happened, but somehow that got so ugly that you wound up on the podcast, and it's just been wonderful ever since then.
Yeah, it basically happened that Zoltar was pretty good at bullying, and I was pretty good at winning the bets that he was trying to bully me over. And that we just kind of realized that, let's just, bury the hatchet. And that was pretty much it. But we had some good rounds before then. And then we teamed up on some bullying some other people.
Okay, so for those
shout out to the Israeli election markets.
Oh. See, I mean, it's just like, it's like we've got the Rolling Stones in town when iSavage is back with the boys. Pratik, before we just bore everyone to death telling stupid war stories, do you want to say hello to iSavage? I shouldn't give you permission. You should just give him a hug and a kiss right now.
Yeah. No, very nice to have iSavage back. As he mentioned, he had some great picks on the Israeli elections, among other things. And what I'll just say a comment about iSavage for people who are maybe new listeners to the show. I mean, we have a lot of different guests on the show, and I think what I hope we've achieved as a podcast is to show that you can make money with a lot of different strategies. And I think we've had a number of people who really make money by taking long shot positions, having a few of them hit. And then being wrong on a bunch of other things. But what I would say about iSavage is I think he's among a very small echelon of traders that are just right, like the vast majority of times. Like, you look at the totality of his picks, and there are just very few times when he's like very far off the mark. And I definitely look to iSavage when I'm looking not only for good betting strategies, but just like actually to figure out what will happen and the right outcome. So when I'm on a different side of the bet from iSavage, I definitely think twice about it in a way I don't with other people.
Praise from Caesar, Pratik. Thank you. That means a lot. But yeah, I think that is, I try to be really methodical and do a lot of research. And, instead of trying to talk myself into what I want to have happen, try to see what's what some value is on some things that people might be missing. So I appreciate it.
Well, but so far a bridesmaid at the Golden Modelos. Maybe today you'll get your Golden Modelo winning pick in.
Yeah, I know that's a tough hill to climb for me. Maybe I need to show up a little bit more often, or do a little bit more marketing for myself. But
could be. Maybe if you had like a beard and some sunglasses and a turban you could wear on this show, you'd get that Golden Modelo. Well, okay, all right. So obviously people care more about politics right now because there's an election. I just say yes to anything you want to say or do because I just always think the quality is really high. But you've sort of teased me. Maybe I'm teasing it a little too much. with saying that you've got like a iSavage master tractorus formula for guaranteed success, asterisk, comma, this is not investing advice, but that you have some sort of system or framework that you're really thinking about all of the races that everyone else is talking about, whether that's Oz or JD Vance or Mandela Barnes or whatever it may be. So is that true? Did I make that up?
I mean, a lot of what I've been thinking about is I think the hottest thing right now is really, what's really going to happen with control of the House. I think that last time I was on, the conversation was really around, man, are they writing the obituary for the Democrats too soon? That was probably January or February. And that was back when I think that it was already like odds of Republicans taking the House by like 80%, maybe even a little bit more at that point.
Yeah.
And, again, liberal guy, I don't ever want to sit there and count my team out, but I also don't want to lose money. But we were saying at the time, like, man, anything, it's a long year, is a long year. And I think that this has been proven to be true. So many things have happened, since then that's why odds have, kind of doubled. They're still below half, but they've doubled from where they were for the Democrats to take the House.
Right.
So now that I got this big bet that I'm sitting on, I really want to think that if I want to, take my money and run and hold it. And as I'm looking at statewide races and seeing, where the pickups might be, kind of my formula is right now, where are the scoops going to come from for either Democrats to pick up big amount of these seats that they're, either swing seats or if you look at, the political report, what are likely Democrat, likely Republican. What I'm really looking at is what does the top of the ticket to this state look like? Because that's, I think, what's going to bring people out. And if you look at a state like California, no MAGA candidate at the top of the ticket, a lot of demoralized Republicans. And I think that if you look at what might be considered lean Republican House seats in California, toss-up seats in California, I think a lot of those you could probably shift over to the Democrat column just based on what's happened, since the middle of the summer where Democrats have turned out. If you don't have an energized MAGA base, you're not going to pick up as many of those seats, right?
Okay, can I stop you?
Yes.
All right, I want to slow you down a little bit. Okay,
yeah,
so
what you're shot out of the cannon, King. Come shot out. Let's go.
Well, we can't all run as fast as you, bro.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are sitting on a very profitable bet right now that we talked about 6 months or 9 months ago or something, which was at some point the Republicans will fuck up. At some point the Democrats will do something right by the bottom of one. So now all that bet on specifically the Democrats maintaining power in the House is worth a lot of money. So you have to decide either one, to sell, or two, where the heck are these gains going to come? So you are looking for a rationale to hold on to the bet that Democrats will win the House this next year. And that rationale is look for places where there's no good Republican at the top of the ticket or something like that. That's
where I'm kind of, as I'm digging into, okay, what seats can they hold? What seats can they possibly flip? Where might they lose some seats? Really digging onto it. So, I think people can talk about the Cook political report or any of the other, toss up and that kind of thing. But they do have them at least kind of categorized and segmented. And as I said, as I go through, kind of like I said about California, I'll look at Florida on the opposite. If there's something that's lean Republican, if there's something that's toss up in a House seat in Florida, I'm putting that in the Republican column right now. Republicans in Florida, I think, are going to come out. They love DeSantis. They're energized. I think that they're a rare breed. And so as you go through, then you start thinking of everything else where there's heavy pickups.
Well, can I ask you the obvious question?
Yeah.
For Degens, who's at the top of the ticket in Pennsylvania, Oz or that one crazy guy, Mastriano?
So that's what's kind of interesting is that, you've got some MAGA guys at the top of the ticket in Pennsylvania. Mastriano is, super MAGA, but I also feel like there might be a sense of defeatism, as it comes down to it too. I don't think that MAGAs are coming out to vote for Oz. They might come out to vote for Mastriano, but the people that are coming out to vote for one or the other, what are they going to do in a House race, right? If I'm a Romney type Republican and I'm showing up to vote in Pennsylvania because Oz is, kind of okay to me, am I going to split my ticket and go, yeah, but I don't want to vote for this crazy person who's kind of a kook, who's, in my local race. So but again, top of the ticket is kind of how I'm formulating everything right now and again, like my state in Illinois, if there's a toss up seat in Illinois right now, if there's something that's even lean Republican in Illinois right now, I lean that more towards the blue column because
it's so depressing as a middle America. I haven't lived in middle America for a while, I guess, but as a middle America Republican, the North Shore of Illinois just being barren of any seats colored red is just awful. It's just brutal. It's just like history is over when that is true.
and it's a lot of seats, but same thing, you know what? That's probably how I look at Florida and parts of Texas, where it's just ripe for who you think would vote in your column. But the local party has just fucked up so bad that the brand is just destroyed there. And that's, again, we've seen that in formerly blue states everywhere. Right. So that's, I
love that it's always changing though, but maybe that's subject for another conversation. We're talking a lot. Pratik, do you what? No,
but okay. So when you say top of the ticket, I mean, I suppose I found it interesting. You're looking at the state level. I mean, what are you assuming about the ultimate top of the ticket of American politics, which is Joe Biden?
Well, so I think that what's happened towards since the summer. I think that. It's a very good question. Obviously, I don't think that he's necessarily the top of the ticket anymore. I don't think that it's hype to say that the abortion ruling really has energized people who weren't otherwise going to vote, and people who really don't care much about Joe Biden or are disappointed in him. We've really seen the numbers run up on the Democratic side. I don't think that's hype. I don't think that's a story. I mean, that's real numbers of places that Republicans thought they were going to win. That and it's not Joe Biden that's getting people out. It's that they're seeing the uptick in women voters. They're seeing the losses where they thought there was going to be wins. So I think that's kind of the top of the ticket right now. In the minds of some people who wouldn't have otherwise turned out.
Okay, so if I'm understanding the argument correctly, I think what you're saying is Biden's approval rating, you're thinking will be roughly similar in November to what it is today. Like you're not anticipating anything dramatic either way.
I mean, we've seen it gone up a little bit. I think he's probably hit a ceiling. I think that there's probably some people who are like, okay, I'm not as mad at him as I was, 6 months ago. I don't think that he's going to get over 50% again. But I do think that there's the frustration has pulled back. Because hey, if you would have asked me at the beginning of the summer, you would have called me up as somebody who voted for Biden. Do you approve of Biden right now? I'd say no, because I just didn't see the fight. I didn't see, the articulation of the counter argument that was being put out there. So I was real frustrated. I still think I am. I still think if you called me up, I still probably wouldn't say to a pollster I approve of Biden right now for other reasons as well. But there's probably other people who weren't as staunch as I was that are coming back and saying, okay, yeah, I voted for him. I didn't approve of him for a while, but now I'm, coming back into the camp. If you ask me the question directly.
Yeah. So, okay. So, all right. So the argument is first and foremost, Biden's approval rating is going to kind of muddle where it is. But I think the bigger point you're making is that what Biden has succeeded in doing over the last couple of months is removing a lot of the energy, both positive and negative, away from him and just kind of stabilize the presidency in a way that has given Democrats, the Senate level, congressional level, enough space to have their own brand and succeed or fail on their own merits without too much.
He's taking the crowd out of the game, basically, is that comparison.
Yeah. And I think both of those things. And I think the third part of that is that what nobody on the right wanted to have happen is Trump being part of the conversation again. He makes a very excellent contrast. And I think that there's 2 months left to even do this of that, man, this guy's crazy. And if I vote for, again, this person at the, not just at my congressional level, my state, my state senate and my state congressional level, these are the people who support this craziness that I thought was kind of going to go away after he wasn't in the presidency anymore. And he's creeping back in, like reminding people, these people are my acolytes. You're going to give power to these crazy people that they make fun of on late night TV, and that, say these audacious things that you have to defend as a Republican or whatever it might be. So him coming back into the picture, again, establishment Republicans didn't want that for a reason. And it's very easy as he's endorsed these people. People see Vance, they see Trump. People see Oz, they see Trump. People see Masters, they see Trump. There's, again, people who would probably otherwise vote for a generic Republican who are just like, man, fuck this guy. And that's helping too.
Well, so do you want to, you recently polled your followers, which is
Yes.
a substantial number, on some of these questions. So do you want to get the last word in with your followers?
Yeah, so this was actually just like over the weekend or a couple of days ago. I was just, there's value out there. There's some interesting races that if you're looking for money value, what might be out there. So I did like 4 polls of which one, if you had to go all in on one of these, and it was all kind of, okay, would you rather vote for Demings, Vance, Mastriano, or bet on one of those to win? Because they were all, I think, equally kind of, there's pros and cons for both of them right now, and they're all below 40 cents, all below 35 cents really.
Well, so how about you weigh in though? So you polled Blake Masters in Arizona, who everyone loves to hate on with, is it Sherry Beasley? Is that her name in North Carolina, the Democrat?
Beasley, yep.
And your followers like Masters more than Beasley. Does that kind of hurt you a little?
No, I mean, I think that, you also just kind of look at, you look at numbers there. Number one, I think North Carolina is really kind of flying under the radar right now as a potential Democratic pickup. Nobody's talking about that as much, but the question was really, okay, who would you, what do you think is the more likely one to win, Beasley in North Carolina or Masters in Arizona? I think that was a reasonable way to go over Beasley in North Carolina. North Carolina, I think was going blue for a while there, but it actually ended pretty close. They split actually. Yeah. Now that I look at that poll, so I could still see Masters winning Arizona. I'm not mad at people, kind of seeing that. Arizona is still traditionally red. I think that nationally, a lot of people look at Masters and go, man, this guy's kind of obnoxious or has, right, is tied to a lot of different things. That ideas and that he had articulated in the past, but it's still Arizona. I think that Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, I think there is going to be a little bit more of a headwind down there because of the immigration issue that people are hitting pretty hard. Right. So I look at that, that area of well,
it's also where your Latino voter is most conservative. Right?
Yeah, I agree. And I'll put, Nevada maybe up into that too, because I think that Nevada, was hit a little bit harder by the pandemic. I think there's a little bit more of a still just kind of a little bit of sour taste in the traditional voters there. So Arizona is not a big one that I'm betting on right now. I do see exactly why Masters is underwater. But I still think the potential is there. But the thing is, Kelly's a pretty good candidate. And pretty likable there. So if he was running against a worse candidate, he'd probably run away with it. But you can't really knock Kelly too much.
I want to pick up on one of the things you said earlier about the Trump factor. I mean, I think all three of us are more or less in agreement that the Republicans are and will pay a tax for Trump in terms of Senate quality candidate. I think we've all made that view, but it sounds like you went a bit further and you think that the Trump factor will be significant in November. I suppose I want to drill down a bit on that. I mean, what are you assuming, number one, in terms of a Trump indictment? Do you think there is a possibility of that happening before the midterms? And then if not, what are the other factors that could make Trump a real factor come November?
No, I think him getting indicted before the midterms is probably zero at this point. I think that if you look in Georgia, even like, so down there, they said that if anything that was revealed in a testimony at this point would have to be sealed. Any indictments would have to be sealed until I'm getting that a little bit wrong, but there was an order from the judge of if somebody was going to be indicted down there, that they wouldn't be able to release anything till after the election. I think that that's going to be the general consensus that is going to be pretty verboten right now. I think it's probably going to be verboten to the end of the year. I don't know. I think it's just one of those things that it's such a huge deal. And I think that it would be so disruptive that it sounds so crazy. But I even thought there was a time when everybody thought that Don Jr. was going to be indicted and that, like while Trump is still president. And I'm like, if they're going to do it, nothing is going to happen between November and December. They're not going to indict people during the holiday season. It sounds stupid, but I don't think that's, you don't have all hands on deck during that time. You don't have the response to it. So
right. Government workers, not.
It's just, there's no bandwidth for anything like that. It sounds really dumb, but I do think that does factor in. I don't think that anything is going to happen until after the first of the year. And I probably wouldn't say until the new Congress is installed.
And then how about, just one quick follow-up. And are you of the view that Trump is going to announce a bid for president before the midterms, or do you think that's also a post midterms?
No, I think that he was really, really close to it. I think that he would have until some people got in his ear like, no. So I think that the fact that he was going to do it and then hasn't right now, I think that, he doesn't like to look bad. And I think that somebody really got to him and said, if you announce and then they lose, you're going to be part of the story. He sometimes does take good advice, I think, because I think he was all set to do it. I think he probably had some people on one camp who were telling him to. But I think that the fact that, because that was around July that was leaking, and I think that the fact that it didn't come to somebody appealed to his better instincts.
Yeah, who knows? Got to get Zoltar on the show for the Trump whispering. You've been low key. I'm not going to accuse you of being a Mandela Barnes stan.
Yes.
Those of you who aren't losers like us and actually hang out with attractive women. Mandela Barnes is the lieutenant governor of Wisconsin, now running for Senate against Ron Johnson. We've actually been a very not pro Mandela Barnes podcast. We've said a lot of mean things about Mandela Barnes. This is an argument that requires answering at some point. So would you like to be a Mandela Barnes guy here?
Yeah. So two factors on Mandela Barnes, so one, he's in a statewide office. I don't think it's really the same. I don't know if Wisconsin directly elects a lieutenant governor, or if it's I'm going
to Google it. Keep going.
Yeah. But either way, even if he was part of the ticket with Evers, he's been elected to statewide office. He holds statewide office. That's one thing. I don't think that he is any more extreme than people who have been elected in Wisconsin before.
By the way, it is a popular election, so he did win a statewide race.
So he won a statewide race. Tammy Baldwin. If you can elect Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin, I think you can elect Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin. And he's a engaging guy. I think that he is young. I think that in this environment where people are saying that, there's so many older politicians, I think that's going to, subconsciously or consciously appeal to some people. And then I'll put one more thing out there that obviously Johnson has won before too. I don't know if there's any two more disparate senators from a state than Baldwin and Johnson. I don't know how sustainable that is. And Johnson's gotten kookier. He's said a lot more, just kind of.
He does the grumpy old man act 24/7.
Yeah. And I think that he's got kind of put there as an afterthought before. And here's my other thing with Barnes. And this is why I am going pretty big on Barnes winning Wisconsin right now. At least, for the time being. Who is the kookiest statewide elected person in any position in the kind of upper Great Lakes Midwest?
Who's the governor of Illinois?
Pritzker. But my point is this: you don't really elect right-wing kooks from the upper or Great Lakes Midwest. And I think as Johnson has gotten kookier, he would really break that mold. Wisconsin has not, Illinois has not, Indiana even has not, Michigan has not, Pennsylvania has not, Ohio even has really, I can't think of a kooky statewide elected official. I think that maybe their attorney general is a little bit out of there, but if I got him right. But that's not the mold of those states. And I think that's really kind of my guiding light here, is that that's not the kind of person who, wins election in that region anymore, and really hasn't in the past. I don't think that Ron Johnson 2022 would have got elected in 2016 or 2010.
So, but this is the magic of talking about elections, is that everything's obvious when it's over, but in the present, it's not clear to me at all, because for example, we were not a pro Mandela Barnes podcast because me in particular thinks of this as being like a very anti-incumbent cycle. And I, like, cancel me for saying it, but I thought that it actually played against Mandela Barnes that he was black, because there are just so many people in this country who are just so, it's woke, it's PC, it's, that like it's such a lightning rod thing that whether they'll tell you or not that especially in a state like Wisconsin, that might well be a disadvantage that he faces. And then on the other hand, a kooky guy like Ron Johnson. I mean, Ron Johnson isn't a nut. He's not a lunatic. I think there's probably a lot of people who say, I wish I had the balls to, talk that way and say that kooky thing and be a dick the way Ron Johnson is. So when the election's over, one of these takes will sound perfect, because, one of them will happen. And I'm not really sold on which one's true, but I do, favor Johnson in this matchup.
Well, let me ask, right now the market price is, in Wisconsin, the Democrats are actually the favorite now. It's a 52-48 market. Do you have how much would you pay for Mandela Barnes?
34 cents, because that's what I got him for.
All right, how much would you sell it then?
Yeah,
What's your sell price?
That's kind of where I'm at right now. So if your question is, would I still buy him at 49 cents today? I think it's still, that's a good question. I'm holding, so I guess I'll put it like this. Yeah, if I'm holding at this price, I guess I would buy at this price, right? It looked a lot better, when you can get a lot more for cheaper, but yeah, I would lean more towards, I would still feel better about owning Barnes than Johnson at this point. Yeah, like I said, if I'm holding at this price, I'd buy at this price. Why not? Yes, buy Mandela Barnes.
Buy.
Buy Mandela Barnes, buy Mandela Barnes, buy Mandela Barnes. That's gonna play that on a loop when I'm wrong later on, but that's where
so much shit is gonna happen between now and then. Like, it's like, why do we even bother talking? We should have one podcast the day after the election, and that's it.
Well, so here's where I think that we might differ a little bit, but I'm interested in your response. So I think in broad outlines, I think I agree with you that candidate quality is a real problem for Republicans. And I think barring a significant national shift, like a red wave and momentum is not going to be enough to get a lot of these candidates over the line on the Republican side, especially because they're up against very good, or at least good enough incumbents in office. Now, here's, I think, where I disagree a bit, that, when I'm looking at market pricing and I don't really know like how to think about an accurate price, I kind of try to get an overall picture of where the markets are to get a sense of whether or not they're tilting too far in a red or blue direction. And what I would say is that I have real doubts right now about paying for some of these Democrats, because when I look at the markets and I look at races that I think are more or less a gimme, I think a lot of Democrats are priced way too high. I'll give you an example. Florida governor, you brought that up, and I think we're in agreement that Ron DeSantis is in a very good place. I mean, right now the markets are giving Charlie Crist a 13% chance. It's an 88-12 market effect, or 88-13 market. You kind of see similar dynamics with Florida with Rubio, who I would also consider a strong favorite. And across the board, I mean, you just see these kind of market prices where I think Republicans are closer to being like a 92.8, 94.6 favorite, where you just see people paying a premium on Democrats. And so what that tells me is if they're overpaying there, especially given the kind of people who trade on Predicted, my gut is telling me they're paying way too much for Mandela Barnes, around 52%.
I mean, yeah, I think there's an argument there. I mean, me and you definitely agree that I mean, you could shut the door on Florida as far as I'm concerned. I think that, I think you just kind of factor in the price dynamics in, just historically on Predicted in general. Like you just don't really see 95.5, 92.8 on, elections that are still going to be within 4 or 5 points and that poll that way, because people do look for value. And whether whether somebody wanted to load up on Chris at 13 cents, that's definitely probably maybe double what it should be. But I think the inflated value when it gets to be in the pennies like that is just people propping it up for, looking for value. I'm going to entertain the argument that translates to, does that mean that Fetterman is too high? Does that mean that, that Kelly is too high? That Barnes is too high? Probably not by the same magnitude. Like, just because Chris is twice as much as he should be doesn't mean that Barnes is twice as much as he should be. Maybe it's, since Chris is overpriced by 5 cents, maybe the argument could be that, that Barnes is overpriced by 5 cents, just because of, again, bargain hunting. But yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to entertain, though.
Yeah, and look, it's not a foolproof argument by any means. I mean, you look at Texas, it's kind of a similar dynamic. I think Greg Abbott is probably trading too low. I would say he's more than 84% favored. But then on the other hand, even in this environment, I mean, there are places I think where Democrats are underpriced. I would put Pennsylvania governor as being one of those. I mean, for Mastriano to win against a solid Democratic candidate there, I think would be a real shocker. But right now, that's like about a 70-30-ish market there. So I don't know, but that's kind of where my head is right now. With
I do tend to agree. I just, again, I think that it's just kind of the nature of looking for value. And then there's also just the factor that anything, because me, I'm not going to hold past a certain price anyway. Do I think that Abbott's an 85% chance to win? Absolutely. He probably is higher. I'm not going to buy 85. That's the other thing. I'm not going to spend 85 cents on Abbott right now. So that's probably the other thing that's making the other side cheap, is that nobody, as it gets higher, people don't want to pay as much as well. So that makes the flip side of it a little bit cheaper.
Right. Smart money wants the 93 cents a week before the election and not the 85 3 months before it.
Yeah. What do you guys think about Vance and Ryan?
So I'm going to try and push us towards sticking the landing on this and say, so right now, as we speak in early September, basically the B-52 bombers full of cash are loaded on their super pack tarmacs, and they're headed out to just saturate these states. So I critique JD Vance. I think that he's on his way up right now, but I also think that it's probably a good time to value buy a lot of Republicans like JD Vance, because $100 million worth of campaign ads are about to hit, and spamming Facebook campaigns and stuff like that. There will be an answer that will start to register in the next few weeks. I don't know if it'll amount to these guys winning, but I think it will amount to enough perception that you can make value trades just by buying Republicans at a discount right now.
Keenan and I have been on kind of different, we've had different perspectives on Ohio, but I guess, I can talk about specific Ohio things, but I would say that my broader thesis here, which leads me to short JD Vance, is that I think, we're in early September right now. There's a lot of time between now and November. And I guess my view is that the national climate, I think there's a lot of room for change in either direction. I think you could see, on the one hand, come November, an even friendlier environment for the Democrats that we look at now. On the other hand, I have not discounted the idea that the red wave may be coming. It'll just materialize a bit later. And so that makes, on the one hand, Ohio, a long shot, very attractive to me, but it also makes things like Colorado, buying the Republicans, taking a long shot position there, very attractive too, because, that's an example where the Republicans are trading so cheap, they have a good candidate. If you begin to see a red wave coming, there's value there. So that's kind of how I'm seeing it at a high level.
Yeah, that's a tough one for me. I think that there's a lot to make an argument for Ryan to win there. But I still just look at the fundamentals of Ohio. And again, hey, they elected I always forget his name. You know what I mean? The Democrat senator from Ohio.
Sherrod Brown.
Yeah, Sherrod Brown.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you know, if you can elect him, maybe. I think the other thing is I think there are some kind of I call them Romney Republicans, but you know that are going to be perfectly fine with Vance. And I think that he's got the MAGA stamp, and I think that that's going to be a nice maybe convergence for him. But I think that that's the other part here is that the MAGA is really going to show up without Trump on the ballot, and that's really the thing that I'm wrestling with right now when I'm looking for value in cheap places is this undercurrent of Democratic energy. If are Democrats going to vote, is everybody going to vote like 2018 again, basically?
No.
I mean, but that, in 2018, my opinion was that MAGA is just, again, you just got people who like Trump and they're not going to show up unless Trump is on the ballot. And I think that there's a potential for that deficit to exist again. Again, not to that magnitude, but I think that they might be running into it's possible they run into the same problem.
Here's what I will guarantee you will be different from 2018, the last big Democratic wave, is that I think there are a lot of middle and upper middle class, white people on the North Shore of Chicago or in similar places, suburbs of Philadelphia, who experimented with Democrats the last couple cycles and who are not going to stay in that tent. Now, I don't know if it's a big enough number of people for it to matter, but I will also, the numbers tell similar stories about, blue collar Latinos in states that don't have high unionization rates, for example. So we know on the margin that do we still call it the Obama coalition? I don't know what we call the 2018 coalition, but we know on the margins that coalition is just going to be smaller. So yes, the question you're asking is very important, which is the people for whom Trump was their Obama, like, will they show up and vote? Great question. I would love to meet someone who knows the answer.
So here's my other thing looking at Pennsylvania, and I think there's probably other places with this dynamic too, is that even if those people do show up, like let's say the MAGA show up for Mastriano because that's their guy. I think there's a contingent of them that also will still vote for Fetterman because he really does have that kind of niche. And then
Shout out Mary Peltola.
Yeah. But then I also think it's funny is that there's people who are going to, regular kind of Republicans that are going to be perfectly fine with voting for Oz and then be like, but fuck that Mastriano guy and vote for Shapiro. So I think that there's going to be a cancellation of some of that. And that dynamic exists a little bit in Ohio too, because, there's the DeWine Vance converge, again, there might be some people who go, I'm gonna vote for DeWine but not Vance because he's too Trumpy for me. And then there's the other way around. So
we had an excellent, truly excellent guest that people I don't care if you did, but Andrew Tobias from it's the Cleveland Plain Dealer. It's the silliest name for a paper, but it's the big paper up in Cleveland. And he's their Columbus beat political reporter. And he really sold the shit out of me thinking Tim Ryan doesn't stand much of a chance in this race.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately that's still where I'm at. It's just Ohio. I don't see any. If anybody could do it, it'd be him. But at the end of the day, I am not a big fan of Vance. But he's also not. He's not very likable, but he's not repulsive to the point where people aren't going to show up for him. I think that's let me put it like this: if Mastriano was running for senator, like somebody like that, I think that would be a lot more of a chance. But at the end of the day, I think there's going to be a coalition of people who are going to be okay voting with him. But I'm not going to put a whole lot of money on either side of that one.
Yeah. Pratik, do you want to ask one last question to iSavage while we have him? I'm just looking at the timer and thinking about how many employees are really going to hang around, because we'll stay here for 24 hours with iSavage if we can.
Well, I guess I thought we could close out just you've taken a contrarian view on House control. Right now, the markets are roughly 75-25 that Republicans are going to take that. So are you recommending buy the Democrats around 25%, or how much would you pay?
Yeah. Gosh, what's the current price right now? It's higher than 25, right?
I think it's the high 20s right now.
It is. Yeah. You know what? For value, for value, I would still say yes. Again, it goes against everything. Would I pay 73 cents for Republicans right now? I mean, I would say no. You got to change. That would just crash too quick. If something goes the wrong way, I mean, I still like it. Again, I might just be trying to justify, my heart and my money at the same time to look for the wins. But I'll go back to it. Looking at the states where there's a lot of seats to pick up, I do see a potential for more Democratic energy to hit at the margins, for the potential to be there. And I'll put it like this: I go all big on that way. This might be my last big predicted bet. You know what I mean? So, what am I going to do? Get all excited and go all in for 73 cents, or, go all in to try to make 4 times my money?
Makes my
so
heart
there is
tingle.
a hedging rationale for these markets.
Always,
after all, right?
Always.
Wait, so will you be a unpaid product endorser for us?
That depends.
Well,
Yes.
Yes. So we want to get the boys to pay for us to hire a second editor. So can you tell the boys to pay for us to get, and we also want them to sponsor us getting some new software so we can, our editors can edit faster. Can you do a product, and can you just tell them that's the best thing they could do with their money?
I think it's just the only thing that you could do that is right with your money. That if you have won some money based on what you heard on here, that only makes sense that you're going to give some back. Hey, you had John Ralston on the other day. Shout out to John Ralston. He's great. And you know what I do because he made me money for, making me be able to bet confidently on Nevada.
Yeah, get it right, bro.
I subscribe to the Nevada Independent. That's what you do. You know what I mean? I don't live in Nevada. I don't, but I give back.
Not an independent.
Yeah, I give back. So yes, if you've made some money off something you've heard on here, I don't even know why I got to say this. Come on.
Yeah, that's right. We got to hire a new editor in like the Philippines or something to keep these podcasts coming as fast as they need to. So what iSavage. Always do what iSavage says.
Give back. That's only right.
That's right. Well, thank you for your unpaid endorsement. Well, hopefully we'll see you again. You were OG SSG crew. I understand that life changes. You got a huge job in the last year. I won't say anything that you wouldn't say beyond that.
Right.
Congratulations. And it's just great to have you back in the lab with us.
Time flew. I will be back before the election.
Let's blaze, buddy. Pratik, you want to say goodnight?
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on, and I look forward to seeing you again.
You guys look great.
You look better.